Hi everyone. All right, it's the reading of the Psalm time tonight. Okay, I'm tired. I've had a long day today, and but because I enjoy reading my Psalm and I would read it anyway, or I would meditate upon a part of it in my mind even if I don't open the Bible, I'm going to share my perspectives with you all. So, we're going to be reading out of Psalm 124 today. And this is the psalm that has been on my spirit today. I was looking for something that could speak to hostages because that's just the theme that's on my spirit. Is just hostages, being hostage to stuff. And I'm going to use the Psalm 124 to elaborate deeper on this. So here I go. If it had not been the Lord who was on our side, now may Israel say. If it had not been the Lord who was on our side when men rose up against us, then they would have swallowed us up quick when their wrath was kindled against us. Then the waters had overwhelmed us. The stream had gone over our soul. Then the proud waters had gone over our soul. Blessed be the Lord who have not given us up as prey unto their teeth. Our soul is escaped as a bird out of the snare of the fowlers. The snare is broken and we are escaped. Our help is in the name of the Lord who made heaven and earth. All right. So, this is a psalm speaking to the flood. It speaks to the devastation that these children experienced, the whole world experienced. All those many souls that didn't make it. All of those many souls that drowned in the waters of the deep or that were sunk beneath the earth, or whatever their situation was in the earthly catastrophe that came upon them. See, the flood came upon the children as an act of nature. God didn't make them have wars with one another. It wasn't a hand-to-hand combat situation. It was the wrath of nature. It was the wrath of the mother. God unleashed all the elements upon the children and all the animals in the world. Everything came upon them. And it happened consistently for a year. And these children, after they landed, now mind you, I don't want to keep going into great detail, but I need you to understand what I mean by that. And when I say understand, I mean I need for you to get an inner knowing of it. And the only way you can resonate within an inner knowing, you have to be able to empathize. Empathize meaning you got to be able to put yourself in that situation. You have to be able to imagine what it was like to be in that situation. For all of the elements, the air, the wind, the heat, the water, all of the vibrations shaking creates a sound, so the sound pierces. The shaking is so consistent and at such a high frequency, it'll break up the molecules in your body. You start falling apart. You start sinking. It is utter chaos. And these children are in the boat. There's only a few of them, a family of them that God set apart and chose to remain, along with the animals of the earth that were on the boat as well. So they're hearing it and they're seeing it and they're frightened is an understatement. They land. And even though they land, they are traumatized. They get off the boat, and you would think that they would probably have ran off of that boat. But they probably were just as frightened off the boat as if they were on it. Because the destruction that came upon them wasn't within a particular area. It was a worldwide destruction. There was nowhere to run to that would save them from experiencing something like that again. There was nowhere to run to. So it's not like they got off the boat and they're sitting there and they're saying, "Oh my God, we finally got to safety." There is no safety ever in their minds. This is why God extended their life cycle so long. The life cycle of Noah and his descendants were much longer than those that were prior to. Those that died in the flood didn't live as long as Noah and their descendants. Because when Noah and his descendants got off of that boat, there was no reproducing happening. Those people needed to be healed. And it took many years for them to heal from something as devastating as the worldwide flood that they experienced and that they actually saw with their own two eyes and heard with their own two ears. And all of it didn't come from some strange alien entity. All of it came from God. God ordained this thing. So now they're trapped on a planet. Listen, where there is no safety, precaution that one can utilize to ever prevent this again, outside of staying in alignment with this God. You do not want to get this God upset, because this is what happens. So they spend a lot of time getting their minds right. I can't recall what age it was when Noah when Noah and his children began reproducing again, but it was a long time after the flood. I believe it was hundreds of years, if I'm not mistaken. I don't want to waste the time of this video looking it up. Should have done it prior to, didn't think about it. You can look into it yourself, though, if you're interested. Yet, the generations after are those and within this generation, let's not even say after, within this generation, these people that got off the boat began procreating, and they began assembling amongst one another, and they're remembering what happened. Because like I said, the children of the fallen ones didn't die in the flood. If they did, they wouldn't have been alive and active after the flood. So whether they were in the water or whether they are entities that can go formless for a time and then manifest themselves, whether they're shifters, they can shift and they can manifest themselves into different species. Whatever they did, they were able to manage to still stay alive after the flood. They were still on the earth. So after the flood, regardless to how they did it, we could all speculate about that. That's a whole nother sermon, a whole nother video. But regardless to how, we know that they lived after the flood because it's documented in the Bible. And these children and these fallen ones are the only ones on the planet. Head count has been drastically reduced. Noah and his descendants are able to create whatever they desire. And what do? They create the Tower of Babel. And they build up. All the entities that are on the earth are frightened, even the fallen ones. Everybody is traumatized. There is not one that believes that they are almighty. God has leveled it. God has humbled all of them. Everybody's humbled. And they're saying to themselves, I don't know who came to who and started the conversations, but they've all come to some sort of agreement through their actions that they need to do something for themselves. They need to find a way to help themselves by preventing something like this from happening again. And that is one of the reasons why they built the Tower of Babel. They built up and they built up high, and they used elements through technology, not just through nature, because yeah, all the elements they used were natural elements, but they used the science to blend them so that they could withstand certain things. So they began to build up high so that if the world ever flooded again, if they ever fell out of alignment again, if their children ever fell out of alignment again, they would have a safe place to hide, which in itself is a sin. But even though it's a sin, if I ask you to be able to empathize with the goodness, if I ask you to empathize with the courage, if I ask you to empathize with the love, I gotta ask you to empathize with the fear. I have to. You have to be able to empathize with these people. None of these children in all of their walks have been able to stay in alignment with God. None of them. Even now, even all of you who might look at this video or any of my videos and say, well, what is she talking about? Oh, she must be this or she must be that. None of y'all, not one of you, have been able to stay in alignment with God throughout your whole life. And if you believe you have, I'm willing to bet money that there's something that you're not telling someone that you've done along your way that has not been in alignment with God. These children faced that reality and said, you know what? Okay, we know our history. We know our track record. The rules were much clearer for them. This is a time when God was showing himself face to face with the children. This is a time when the angels were known in the earth. Nowadays, if an angel came and walked upon you, you wouldn't even know it. You wouldn't even believe it because you got a picture of what an angel looked like, and an angel probably don't look nothing like what you think. An angel probably looked like a homeless person standing outside with a 40-ounce of Old English. And you'll think that's blasphemous. I'm just giving you an example of what you wouldn't believe something to be, could be. Let's take the Old English out. I wouldn't think an angel would be drinking a 40. Okay, that was a bit excessive. Okay, but you know, an angel could be a homeless person sitting outside of the 7-Eleven with a blanket on in 100-degree weather, looking crazy. And you be trying your best to get away from them. Because you don't understand. You don't even know what you're in. You don't know where you are. Somebody has sold you on an idea. You don't even know where you are. Many of us don't know where we are. I myself don't even know what the heck is going on around here. I do not know. I have an idea. I'm searching around, feeling my way through to try to figure it out, but I don't even know. They say this place is this big and that big. I don't know. I have to go off of what they say. I don't have a plane that can go up high enough to view it. I gotta trust what someone else is telling me. These children had an advantage. And I'm going off of what they did with the knowledge that they knew. With what they knew, they still decided to try to help themselves. It's amazing. Instead of saying, okay, you guys, we have a great opportunity. We can do this however we want to. We must stay in accordance with this. Instead of that, they ended up going a whole nother way. They ended up building, using their mind out of fear. The only thing that makes you do something like that is fear. And the fear of God was so pronounced in them that they said, I know this ain't right. I know it. But what else can I do? If you know you just escaped a worldwide flood. Everything that you knew before is done. All that was before is no more. Bye. Out of here. The whole place looked different. And you mean to tell me that even in the same generation, none of these people had transitioned? No one's still alive. All of them. They procreating, and they decided to do a heinous thing. And they decided that they would partner with those fallen ones' children. Because this is where they got the technology, the wisdom to do it, to build up. Why did they build up? They built up because they wanted to find a way to withstand the flood again. They saw the buildings and all the places that sustained in the flood. Even though there were no people left, there were the tops of places left because there were tall buildings before the flood, friend. A lot of the monuments you see in today are monuments with the tops just showing. The rest of it is below the earth. But nonetheless, this is hearsay. This is what I hear. So I have nothing to prove it by, but this is just something you could speculate on. But nonetheless, they built up so that they could withstand the forces of nature. And they built up because they're looking for a way around. See, when the angels fell and they were all bound here on the earth, they were bound here as a punishment. This was not permanent for them. Even though they came down and they incarnated with the women, they procreated with the women to create a species. These are high vibrational energetic beings. They knew that they wouldn't always be able to stay in this realm because it takes too much energy. But if they could impregnate the women, they could create an offspring that was half them and half human. And they could then have more of an interaction here in the earth. So when God got wind of it and he closed all the portals, those that were just here on vacation were stuck. Those that were just coming here to party and kick it and all this and that and it was heaven on earth for them. They had people here doing stuff for them. They had their own lots. It was great. But when those portals closed, all the source energy shut down. They had to generate that energy some kind of way or else it would be a mass extinction.